మిత్రులారా, ఇప్పుడు మన డాక్టర్ చందన చక్రవర్తి గారు సిసిఎంబిలో డాక్టర్ పిఎం భార్గవ గారు దాన్ని మొదలుపెట్టిన తర్వాత భార్గవ గారితో పాటు ఆ తర్వాత ఆ టీంలో జాయిన్ అయ్యి చివరి వరకు కూడా భార్గవ గారితో పాటు నిలబడి వైజ్ఞానిక దృక్పథాన్ని పెంపొందించాలనే ప్రయత్నం చేసిన హ్యూమనిస్టు, మానవవాది. ఆ విధంగా వారు నిరంతరం పనిచేస్తూ ఉన్నారు. సో వారికి ధన్యవాదాలు చెప్తూ వారిని సందేశం ఇవ్వాల్సిందే కోరుతున్నాను.
Thank you very much for inviting me today. It's a great pleasure to be here, spending this morning with you. Justice Dr. Radharani, Dr. Hamid Davolkar, Mr. Mohan Bhagwat has just left, Sambasiva Rao Garu, TV Rao Garu, Dr. B.N. Reddy, and of course, mostly to you for all your work. Friends, we've all gathered here to celebrate National Scientific Temper Day. And the two names, of course, National Scientific Temper Day is all dedicated to commemorate Dr. Davolkar's work that he has done, his life that he dedicated to scientific temper, and the fact that he paid with his life for what he believed. We in Hyderabad would also like to remember another individual who did a tremendous service to this cause, and that is Dr. P.M. Bhargava. You already heard Ramesh Garu speak about him. I had the great privilege and good fortune of working with Dr. P.M. Bhargava for 35 years. I was a young girl when I had joined CCMB, and I saw how this gentleman did everything that he did. And he was a polymath, a man who handled so many things in his life. I had a ringside view of all his work. Okay. He was an institution builder who built CCMB in Hyderabad, and by building this prestigious first-rate world-class institution, he put this city, Hyderabad, on the world map of science. He was a scientist, one of the best known Indian scientists internationally. His institute here, CCMB, had attracted at least 60 Nobel laureates from across the world. You know that? Hyderabad, your city. And Dr. Francis Crick, who found the structure of DNA on which the entire biology today is based, on which so many things are based, on which what Mohan Bhagwat Garu was telling you about the cases that he solved through DNA fingerprinting, all that would not have been possible without the knowledge of the structure of DNA, which Dr. Francis Crick discovered and got the Nobel Prize for. He came to Hyderabad 3 times. He stayed in CCMB for a whole month. Why? Because they had such regard for a gentleman like Dr. P.M. Bhargava. When I joined Dr. P.M. Bhargava, he was not only building this fantastic institute, which required every bit of energy that you had, but he was also writing a textbook for 5th class students, integrated science textbook. That was his dedication, to teach science to children. Not only that, at the same time, he was also setting up the Method of Science exhibition, which was set up in Delhi. What did this Method of Science exhibition do? It taught in very, very simple language to anyone who understood basic English or Hindi the entire thing about scientific temper. What is scientific temper? What does it depend on? How is science done? What is the method of science? Just 4 steps. Question based on observation, making hypothesis, that is possible answers. 3, experimentation. An experimentation where you don't prove, but you disprove. After everything is disproved, that theory which cannot be disproved is what a scientific fact is. And then the 4th step is answer. Just this. It had impacted a large number of people everywhere. The Janata Dal government came to power. This exhibition was put up when Mrs. Gandhi was the Prime Minister. She lost. The exhibition was waiting to be inaugurated. Janata Dal government came. They soon discovered that if you teach children and if you teach people to question, it becomes very difficult for them. Any authoritarian government hates being questioned. They fear only one thing. They fear being questioned. So what Janata Dal government did was overnight, they dismantled the whole exhibition. It had taken more than 2 years and hundreds of people from scientists, social scientists, painters, artists, activists, putting their minds together and creating this exhibition. In one night they destroyed it, put it in a godown. Dr. Bhargav got this news, he rushed to Delhi. Of course, about several years went in fighting this case. And then finally, he brought the entire exhibition and put it up here in City Central Library of Zalganj. We ran it for several years. Finally, Birla State Museum said, okay, we want the exhibition, and they took it, and they gave the final burial to the Method of Science exhibition because there are people who don't believe in the method of science. They took away all the important paintings that were there made by very well-known scientists, and the essence of that exhibition was completely dumped. So this is how we value scientific temper. Let me very quickly tell you, Dr. Bhargav started his entire journey of bringing scientific temper extremely young. He got his PhD at the age of 21. At that time, they set up the Indian Society for Scientific Temper, of which Nehru, Prime Minister Nehru was the president of that organization. Dr. Bhargav was on the executive body. They ran it for a few years, but you know, like Mr. Mohan Bhagwat told you, that among his colleagues, he has a lot of believers, superstitious people. It's same about science. I cannot tell you, I think about 80% of Indian scientists are superstitious people. They do not believe in the method of science. There were no takers. Nobody wanted to sign a little document which said, if you accept the method of science and if you believe in scientific temper, then you solve your problems only through human endeavor. There is no supernatural power. Nobody wanted to sign that. And these nobodies are who? Scientists. So today, what is the condition? Most places you will find that scientists, although they do science in the laboratory in their personal spaces, they will look at the almanac for their daughter's wedding, for getting into a new house, and all kinds of superstition. Anyway, Dr. Bhargav continued with all of this, and then he fought astrology, took the government to court. Both of us had taken the government to the court in 2003, when the government wanted to introduce astrology as a course in all universities, and they were dangling carrots and all kinds of inducements. You know about the fish medicine that used to happen in Hyderabad. It still happens. The numbers have come down greatly, and that is because what JVV did. And a person like Dr. Bhargav, who had so much to do and hardly any time, made it a point to be with them all the time, go to Nampalli exhibition grounds and hand over pamphlets to people, urging them not to believe in such, in such things. He took on someone as important and as powerful as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in Hyderabad. And those days it was extremely dangerous to do that. He did that. He went against him, spoke at his own meeting and tore him down to bits. At lunch, somebody came and told him, sir, whispered in his ears, don't go and have lunch with them because we don't know what, they might poison you. So what Dr. Dhabholkar faced, you know, this kind of criminal mind that took him away, these criminal minds have been there all through, and they've only got stronger today. And that is what we need to worry about. We keep talking about Article 51 AH. Dr. Bhargav played an extremely important role in making that a part of the Constitution, where it is our duty to be to inculcate scientific temper. But then, where have we reached today? We have a government in power that gives two hoots to scientific temper. Every single day we see actions where scientific temper is thrown out of the four windows. Dr. Bhargav took up homeopathy. One day in Hyderabad, there was a meeting, and he went and he spoke at the meeting, and he said, look, India is a democracy. People are free to do what they want. People are free to believe in God. People are free to go even to witch doctors if they want to, because it's a democracy, it is their freedom. But government has no right to spend taxpayers' money on a humbug like homeopathy. Absolutely irrational. You know what happened the next day? 200 homeopaths descended on our office, vandalized our office. I got to know just 1 minute before they arrived that this whole thing is coming and they will lynch Dr. Bhargav. I just managed to close the doors and call the police. Who says homeopathy is soft medicine if homeopaths behave like this? So he never ever spared anyone. It was in this hall, this very hall, astrologers were having a meeting. So, you know, all these superstitious, humbug kind of activities, they always like to associate scientists with them because they want that stamp of authority of science from scientists. And in our country, it's very easy to get those kind of scientists who will come and say, oh, astrology actually works. Oh, homeopathy is very good. So these guys had a meeting in this hall on astrology, and they publicized that their meeting is going to be attended by so-called scientists. The press got in touch with Dr. Bhargav and said, sir, will you come to this meeting this evening? I said, what meeting? He said, astrology meeting, sir. Scientists, they are going to have a debate. So he said, I have not been invited. So he said, sir, they won't invite you. They will only call those scientists who will say, yes, astrology is good. So we are urging you, sir, please make your appearance. So Dr. Bhargav says, I don't usually go uninvited, but this one I will go. So both of us arrived here. The hall was packed. Every seat taken place. People were sitting down, everything. As soon as we entered, he said, oh my God, Dr. Bhargav has come. What to do now? So both of us came and sat, and it would have been too obvious if they had not invited him on stage. He came on stage and he ripped them apart, and then he threw a challenge to all the astrologers. He said, I have 4, what is that called? Janampatris with me, and one of them is dead, 3 are alive. All 4, they're, you know, it's a very documented life, well-documented life. For every right prediction you make, any astrologer from the audience, I will pay 10,000 rupees. For every wrong prediction you make, you pay me only 1,000 rupees. I'm not a very rich man. Whatever money I have, I'll give it to somebody. There were no takers. So here was a man who walked the talk, who believed what he said, and he showed it by his actions. So in 2015, when all this, the beginnings of intolerance were being seen in the country, we saw murders, lynching, people being told you're eating cow meat, nobody knows what meat that was. They were lynched. When all of this intolerance was happening, he was the only one among the Padma awardees to return his Padma Bhushan award to the government. Every time Indian Science Congress had all this mumbo jumbo and they had people come and talk about Vedic science and Vedic biology and all of that, I'll give you one example of Vedic biology. You know the bigger examples. Vedic biology, they say, after, for conception, a woman, after having sex with her husband, if she turns on her left side, it will be one sex, male. If she turns and sleeps on her right side, it will be female. That is Vedic biology. And these are things that were discussed in the Indian Science Congress. Every Indian Science Congress, when something happened, Dr. Bhargava was the only person who would come out and say, stop this Indian Science Congress. This is not science. Later on, when he was very, very sick, very, very sick, every time, Prime Minister Narendra Modi talked about transplantation of the head, there were no scientists who wanted to say anything at all, out of fear. No spine. Ramesh had to come to Uppal, to Dr. Bhargava's house, and he was really sick, to get a statement from him. Where are those scientists today? We have lost them. So loss of Dr. Dhabulkar, loss of Dr. P.M. Bhargava are great losses for us. Huge loss. And especially today, we needed these people with us. We need more people like him. We need more people like Mahesh Bhagwat, for example. But where are these people? Today you won't get a single scientist to come and give you a statement. Try calling any scientist to this JVV platform. Dr. B.N. Reddy will tell you. Did you get anybody to come and speak? No one. Either they believe in all of that mumbo jumbo, or they have absolutely no courage, no spine. But what's most dangerous is, see, all of you who have been working in this area, you've all been worried about, superstition and how it affects people's lives, etc., etc. These are all at very individual levels. Unfortunately today, when we are celebrated 75 years of our independence, we have reached that situation today, which is far, far worse than what it was when Dr. Bhargava, as a young man 70 years ago, started his work on scientific temper, or Dr. Dhabulkar had started his work. It is far more dangerous today, because today the powers that be have thrown scientific temper out of the door. Every single day we hear things. That is because we have no scientific temper, we have no rationality, we have thrown them away. Everything is based on discrimination. All this malgovernance that you see, everything is based on discrimination. And science teaches us that there is no place for discrimination. All human beings across the world, 99.9% of our DNA is exactly the same. Exactly the same, irrespective of the color of your skin, the color of your hair, the shape of your nose, where you are born, what economic background it is. Irrespective of that, can you imagine any other statement from anywhere else which says 99.9% humans are the same? Yet, those who don't believe in science will base everything on discrimination. How do you think these 11 people, rapists and murderers, who were given freed from their jail on Independence Day, on what we call Azadi Ka Amrit Kal, that is not Azadi for us, it is Azadi for rapists and murderers. Why did that happen? Absolute shame. I hang my head in shame. What patriotism are you talking about? I hang my head in shame that my country today has come to such a situation that we free rapists and murderers. Why? Because they were Brahmins. We have an MLA, a legislator, who was part of the panel which gave this verdict, say, अरे ब्राह्मण है, उनका संस्कार बहुत अच्छा है, वो कुछ भी गलत नहीं कर सकते हैं. Absolute shame. We should all be on the streets today, ladies and gentlemen. How can we allow this to happen? Science, scientific temper teaches us equality. Where is equality? Where is equality of sexes? How can I, as a woman, feel safe in my country? We talk of discrimination. You will see every day in the newspapers, somewhere a manhole has been clogged, a man has been asked to go in there, the man doesn't come out, the second man, this is a Safai Karmachari, second man goes, he also doesn't come out because both are dead, the third one goes, 7 people in a row, all dead. Why? Because manually they have been sent into the manhole to clean the manhole. It has poisonous gases. But we continue to do this practice. A country that designs rockets, sends out satellites, we can't have automatic cleaning systems for our manholes? No. You know why? Because of discrimination. Because we have Dalits to do that job. They are there, they were born for doing that. Why do we need? Why do we need automation? This is what they believe. And as long as we have this casteist mindset, we have no regard for human life, we look at human beings in terms of caste, in terms of being untouchables, this atrocity will carry on. How long? How long are we going to keep our mouths shut and watch all of this? So ladies and gentlemen, we are at an extremely dangerous position in our lives. We do not want to learn what science has taught. We want the fruits of technology. Everyone loves technology. All the sadhus and the babas will depend on their mobile phones. But technology does not work in vacuum. There is science behind that. But they will not accept the tenets of science. We have competitive religiosity today. Just imagine. Questioning, you cannot question. Anyone who questions will go behind bars. And if you are an intellectual, surely a place is reserved for you there. Can science grow in such a environment? Democracy and freedom is the basis on which science thrives. Science cannot thrive without freedom. The freedom to question. Questioning is the freedom to question, the right to question is our birthright. And that is something that is being taken away from us. Eating habits, who you will love, who you will get married to. What is all this based on? They are trying to take us back to Manusmriti. And if we do not put our foot down, this country that at the time of independence did not even, 1947, did not even produce alpines. We did not have any technology whatsoever. Look at what we did in 60 years. We manufactured everything. We became self-sufficient. We were giving technology to others. We were able to take technology adopted. We were designing satellites. And today, we are being taken back to Gomutra and Panchagavya. Is that what we are? You saw the malgovernance during COVID. Go Corona, go. Go Corona, go, it will go away. Thali bajao. This coming from the Prime Minister. This coming from people who govern us. That is why I say that today we are in a far more dangerous situation than we ever were. And we have to save ourselves from this. How you save? I only believe in one thing. Leave the old people out. They will not change. Catch them young. You just have to do two things. Teach children to question. Ask them not to believe anyone, not even their parents. Do not believe. Question everything, which is what the Method of Science exhibition was teaching people. Question everything. Secondly, do not burden them with discipline and obedience. It'll come. It'll come by itself. They'll grow up to be responsible children. Children will do some naughtiness. Accept it. But do not break their spirit with obedience and unnecessary discipline and no talking. That is how, and no questioning, that is how we kill all the curiosity. We have to rebuild this nation. We have to start with young children. We have to start in schools, in our homes. We have to do it through example, without which this is not going to happen. I will finally close with one last example of how the powers that be are changing everything. This laboratory, CCMB, that Dr. Bhargava built, actually gave the country a very, very important tool, which is DNA fingerprinting. And if Mahesh Bhagwatji was here, he would have told you how DNA fingerprinting has been used, forensics, in a lot of cases that he solved. This DNA fingerprinting technology was invented in CCMB. Recently, CCMB also did a study about 10, 12 years ago, where they looked at the DNA of the entire country, huge data, and they looked for similarities, they looked at migration patterns, where did our ancestors come from? You know, mankind arose from Africa. From Africa, they went around everywhere, and they also came to India. And there was a very important finding that all of India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Gujarat to Bengal, all through, there are no pure races, period. We are all an admixture of people from everywhere. There is no pure race. What is this government doing? There is no money for science. Huh? All science activities have stopped. You want to do science, you want grants, you do Gomutra, Panchagavya, you will get money. The same government is giving money to set up a whole experiment to look at purity of races. They do not want to see that paper that was published from CCMB, which was the cover paper of Nature. You don't get any higher in science than that. All of that is thrown away. Why? Because it will give them the tool to discriminate. Discriminate on pure irrationality. So friends, I've spoken a lot. We have Dr. Hamid who will speak to you now. Thank you very much for your patience. But please remember, we are going through a very dangerous time, and each one of us has to put in whatever we can to at least change one individual in our life. Thank you very much.